What would you do if you found a wallet stuffed with cash lying right in front of you and no one was watching? Would you take it, or would you walk away? In the heart of Paris, one of the city's most powerful CEOs, Jean-Luc Bernard, decided to find out what a person's integrity is truly worth. But the woman he chose to test wasn't just anyone. She was a struggling single mother, desperate to save her sick daughter, living every day on the edge of survival. Jean-Luc believed everyone had a price. But what this cleaning woman did next would shock him to his core. Jean-Luc Bernard, the stern and calculating CEO of one of Paris's most successful corporations, was a man who trusted no one. His empire had been built on precision, control, and the unshakable belief that every person had a price. His office, a sleek expanse of marble and glass overlooking the Seine, was guarded by more than just locks. Hidden security cameras captured every movement, every whisper of ambition or deceit. To Jean-Luc, people were like chess pieces, predictable and easy to manipulate if you studied them long enough. But on this rainy Tuesday morning, he had a test in mind, unlike any he'd set before. She was a quiet cleaning woman who had joined the company only 2 months ago. Every morning, she slipped through the grand revolving doors with her mop and rag, her presence so unassuming that many employees barely noticed her. But Jean-Luc did. He had read her file, a single mother, burdened by hospital bills for her sick daughter, Elise. She lived in a cramped, dimly lit apartment on the outskirts of Paris, surviving paycheck to paycheck. And yet, unlike so many others he had encountered, there was something about Madeleine's eyes, a quiet strength, a dignity that hardship hadn't destroyed. Can someone truly remain so principled when life offers them nothing but pain? He often wondered. To him, everyone had a breaking point, and he was determined to find hers. That morning, he devised a cruel experiment. Before Madeleine's shift began, Jean-Luc deliberately placed his sleek black leather wallet on the edge of his polished mahogany desk. It was stuffed with crisp 100-euro notes, deliberately visible and temptingly unguarded. He left the office but retreated to his private adjoining room, where he could watch her every move on the surveillance screens. "Will she look around first? Will her hand hesitate?" he muttered, leaning forward as if anticipating the outcome of a high-stakes gamble. The office door creaked open. Madeleine stepped in, her footsteps soft against the tiled floor. She carried her mop and bucket, her face pale with fatigue, but framed by the determination of someone who had no choice but to keep going. And then she saw it. The wallet. Her breath hitched. The money inside could pay for Elise's medicine for a month. It could cover the electricity bill she had been dreading. For a fleeting second, the thought of taking just one bill flashed through her mind. Just one. Jean-Luc would never even notice. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. Jean-Luc's pulse quickened. This was it. The moment she would prove him right. The moment she would fall. But then she stopped. Madeleine inhaled deeply, almost as if steadying herself against a storm. Then, with deliberate care, she closed the wallet, placed it on a high shelf out of sight, and went back to scrubbing the floor as though nothing had happened. Jean-Luc sat frozen in his chair. He had seen countless people fail far simpler tests, yet this woman, this quiet, exhausted woman, had resisted temptation. Later that day he called her into his office. "You saw the wallet," he said, his tone unreadable. Madeleine's brow furrowed. "I did?" "I left it there on purpose," he admitted. "I wanted to see if you'd take the money." Her eyes darkened. "You tested me?" "Yes," Jean-Luc said quietly, uncharacteristically humbled. "And you proved me wrong. Why didn't you take it? You need the money, don't you?" Madeleine's gaze didn't waver. "Because my daughter doesn't just need medicine, she needs a mother she can respect. What kind of example would I be if I gave up my integrity the moment life got hard?" Jean-Luc had no answer. For a man who had spent his life believing that everyone had a price, her words pierced deeper than he expected. The next morning he left another test, this time an envelope filled with cash, alongside a handwritten note. "Use this as you wish." When Madeleine discovered it, she froze. Her heart pounded as she stared at the bills. Then, without taking a single cent, she locked the envelope in Jean-Luc's desk drawer and walked away. Jean-Luc found her later that day. "I don't deserve your honesty," he said, voice softer than she had ever heard it. "But let me help you, not as a test, but because you've earned it." He handed her a check, enough to pay for Elise's treatments, clear her debts, and give her a fresh start. Tears welled in Madeleine's eyes. "I've spent so long fighting alone." "You don't have to anymore," Jean-Luc replied, his gaze unflinching. Weeks passed. One Saturday afternoon, Jean-Luc visited Madeleine's tiny apartment. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, and Elise, once frail and pale, now sat on the floor laughing, flipping through a colorful storybook. Madeleine smiled at her daughter, then turned to Jean-Luc. "You changed our lives," she said softly, but Jean-Luc shook his head. "No, you changed mine. You reminded me that integrity still exists in this world, and I needed to see that." For the first time in years, the man who had built an empire on control felt something he hadn't known he'd lost: hope. In the end, the greatest test hadn't been Madeleine's. It had been his, and because of her, he had finally passed.